You.
Imagine a place free of problems, scams, and thievery. A place where comfort is your only concern. Imagine Comfort Time Live.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another beautiful sunny day in South Florida. This is Comfort Time Live, and I'm Tom Platania, your host. It's almost repetition saying that it's another beautiful day in Florida. Now, if the show was around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
yeah,
it would be pouring rain
this week.
outside.
Yeah,
this week,
yeah.
It's like clockwork.
Pouring is just an understatement.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like torrential the other day.
It's just amazing. It's just like clockwork every day.
Keeping everything green, though.
There you go. We can't complain. This way, nobody's complaining that we're in droughts or just pollution of Lake Okeechobee, not necessarily a drought.
Well, it's a lake. It needs water. I leave it alone. Yeah.
Well, we got another one of our great shows talking about the Contractors Exam Board that just happened on October 11th. That pretty good one. We had a couple really good opportunities to clean up our area, and the staff at the board, on the board, the people that are, we do have some people that are paid to be on there, but a majority of the individuals on the board are there kind of out of the kindness of their heart. So that's a real good thing that they're willing to do that. They're business owners. They take time out of their business to go sit on the Contractors Exam Board to listen to the folks that have been accused of doing things unlawfully. Now, a lot of the things that we see on the Contractors Exam Board, a lot of it is people not pulling permits and people representing themselves as a general contractor when they do not have a general contractor's license. Mm-hmm. And there was one on here that, I mean, if the board was not as lenient as they were, there was over $3,500 in fines just for this one individual. And he was found guilty, but...
How many jobs does that boil down to, that many
that
fines?
was only 3 jobs.
Okay.
Now, because they could fine you 2, 3, 4, 5 times for one job, depending on the different violations. Mm-hmm. And one of the violations was that he was falsely holding himself or business out as a licensee. One was engaging in the business of a contractor without being duly certified. So the first one was, it was seeming that he was saying that he was a licensee of a company who he had contracts for, which was not the truth. And then the other one was willfully or deliberately disregarding any municipal ordinance. Basically, if you've already been caught doing something in the past, you can't use the excuse, I didn't know. So, okay, sometimes they'll let you slip if it's your first time. Okay, you said you don't know, we'll reduce the fine, but
now you know.
Now you know. Oh, now you come back to us again. Well, now you've willfully and deliberately disobeyed what we already told you that you couldn't do. So, and then there could be multiple other things. Maybe he did 3 or 4 different trades that required 3 or 4 different licenses.
And he took care of that. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, because if he's going to say he's a contractor for one thing, I'm sure he'll say he's a contractor for something else.
Exactly. So a lot of great stuff. Now, I really like that they're doing them every month now, because this one was only about an hour and 30 minutes. You can watch any one of these by going to the City of Port St. Lucie's website, and they have a link under there to actually watch. And since I haven't been able to physically make it to the meetings at 10 o'clock, which is at City Hall, October 11th, it was at City Hall, 10 a.m. I'm not quite sure when the next one will be, but let me see, does it say it on here? No, I'm not sure when the next one will be, but usually they're at 10 a.m. and it's published on there. And then they play everything on Channel 20, which is Port St. Lucie TV, and they play it over and over and over again. So you can see. So if one of these examples catches your attention and you want to watch, like this first one that we're going to talk about, this is a good one to listen to. It's one of those things where there was a lot of information, a lot of detail. There was some good reasons of why they did what they did. Whether I agree or disagree doesn't make a point. It's done and over with. That they did what they needed to do. But you see a lot of this. Now, one thing I saw a lot of, and I see the same people again and again, is you get these companies either from down south that they send their service techs or their salespeople up here. Well, that salesperson or service, they are not necessarily prepared to sell a project, fill the permit paperwork out, have a couple days to get the paperwork processed and sent back up here to the city of Port St. Lucie, and then start the job. So what happens is these folks will come up here from down there. They'll fill out or have the homeowner sign the permit application, and then they start the job the next day. Well, what happens is that nothing's been done on the permit, so the office down south takes a couple days. Well, if the inspectors are driving around and they see this, they're going to get caught for doing a project without a permit. And you're seeing that quite a lot with some of these big names that are actually on here today. All year cooling and heating was one. Another one that was on here was where do we have it here? Service Experts was on here. And it was a Harbor Isle Circle. Another neat thing is they're actually posting the addresses that these offenses were on there, which is really good, because that helps. If we're publicizing this, people, if you're in that area, you're going to be able to kind of keep an eyeball out and say, hey, well, if it happened to Joe down the street at 2242, oh, wait a minute, I need to keep my eye out that these people aren't, because if they're in one house in the neighborhood, they're going to be knocking on other doors. And if they're doing work without permits, you can be sure that they're probably going to knock on your door, and they're probably going to do the same thing to you that they did to Joe down the street.
Yeah, and if Joe down the street recommends somebody to me when I have a problem,
Exactly.
now I know the guy he used wasn't licensed.
And that's what a lot of people nowadays do. They think that because my neighbor recommended, the guy's got to be great.
That saved me money.
Yeah, absolutely. He's great. Joe didn't have any problems down the street. Well, no, that's actually.
But maybe there was a problem.
Exactly. That's why you become a statistic, and you don't want to become a statistic. Service Experts, they got nailed with a level 3. Now this is Dennis Kvirsten, who was the licensee holder for Service Experts. They got hit with a level 3 reprimand, which goes to the licensing board in Tallahassee. And they had their permitting privileges for 365 days. Okay? Now, this was for 1691 Southwest Harbor Isle Circle. It was for not pulling permits, but they have been busted over and over and over again. Plus, he didn't show up to the hearing. Now, they look at this on the board. They don't like that. They do everything they can, the city of Port St. Lucie, to make sure that all documentation, everything gets to the person ahead of time to let them know, hey, you violated something. They have return receipts and things of that nature, so they know somebody physically received it, somebody signed for it. We know you got it, so you can't use the excuse, oh, I never got that. Oh, I don't know anything about it. Wrong. Well, they don't like that, and they will give zero leniency to anybody if they don't show up to defend, or at least to say, hey, like there was a guy yesterday. And that was one of the reasons that they cut him some slack. The guy who had $3,500 in fines. He walked up to the podium and he fessed up. He said, hey, I thought something was something and it wasn't. I messed up. I deserve what I get. And they respected that. They gave him some fines. They cut some fines. But, these guys don't show up. They hit them hard. So for Service Experts in this area, they have lost their permitting privileges for 365 days. Now, be cautious, because Service Experts has a lot of locations, okay? So be cautious when you're looking at Service Experts. There's West Palm Beach locations, there's locations north. So this doesn't necessarily mean it's the West Palm Beach, or actually it's the Jupiter location. It doesn't necessarily mean it's that one. But if you are going to use them, and you're in that area, you need to make sure that you call the city and verify that a permit is being pulled on that property and that they are the company that is allowed to pull the permit. Because what's going to happen is they're going to go Oh yeah, we're pulling a permit for this project. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's the ticket.
And they're going to do the job without.
And they're going to do the job without.
Because they've got to wait a year before they can.
Exactly it. And you know what they may do?
But that's just if you call them and you're in Port St. Lucie.
Yes, just in the
Okay.
city. Yeah, just in the city. But I would do it with anybody.
Yeah.
Now I'm still trying to get a hold of get Martin County and those places to give me information like this.
Is there a way to find out if they're in trouble in another area?
Oh, absolutely. Just
Okay.
call.
Mhm.
Yeah, and absolutely call. They'll be more than happy to if you're in another area. And that's why I said before on a couple shows ago, never sign an agreement right then and there. Do some homework on that contractor first and on the equipment that you're buying. You'd be surprised in what you find out. Pick up the phone. If it's Martin County, call them up and say, hey, I got so-and-so coming to do a job in my house tomorrow. First off, I want to know what do they need to do this job properly. Do they need a permit? How long does it take for the permit? Will you let them do the work because I want to install it tomorrow? Will you let them do the work tomorrow without the physical you issuing them a permit? Get this information. Now, they're not gonna, they have no monetary investment in that, okay, except for, well, yeah, they're going to get the permit money, but they should be getting that anyway. So you really need to be cautious on that. So don't necessarily, oh, here's the other one. All year cooling and heating that was on here. This is one of the big companies. They had 23 violations of not pulling permits. And out of 9 of those, they had 9 of them had expired, which means that when they did get the permits finally, that the 9 of them had expired, and all 9 that had expired had failed the inspection. But they were all reported right before this event. They were all reported that all but 1 had been brought back into code. So, and see, that's what happens is they got these guys driving all the way up here, and the owners and stuff down there, they're not coming up
So it's a
here.
timing thing more so than a
Exactly.
bad work.
Exactly. And
Or deception.
In some of these cases, I would say that it is. Like this one here, the owner of the company came up with the attorney, and once again, they showed up. And that's typically what it is these folks drive all the way up here, and the sales guy's up here selling it, and he sells 2 or 3, and he goes back down south, and they install them tomorrow. Well, they have to go based on what that salesperson has told them is involved in the project. So these guys will drive all the way up here thinking that it's this and something's different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe the drain pan, which is the part that goes underneath the unit, maybe the size that they thought was going to fit won't fit. Well, now they're scrambling around trying to find another one, and they say, okay, well, we'll put it in, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll fix it. Well, maybe they get busted between now and then, or whatever the case may be. So you just have to be cautious when you're doing this stuff. Once again, make your phone calls. Give us a call here at Comfort Time Live. Now, something I am going to do is, because we talked about load calculations, on the front of ComfortTimeLive.com, right on the front right-hand side, about halfway down, I'm going to post my document that I use to do load calculations, okay? After I mentioned it a couple shows ago, I got a lot of emails and some phone calls for people asking to have their houses given a heat loss, heat gain with a load calculation because they weren't confident that with the air conditioning company that came out, because they never did it. So it's $50. You can download the form. You can email it to me. I'll do a full load calculation on your house, whole house load calculation, so that you can be confident that the air conditioner that they're putting in, they're not just selling you what you have there. Oh, it's a 3-ton. Oh, we're putting a 3-ton in. Let's make sure it's the right system. Now, some of you are going to say, and I hear this all the time, well, the 3-ton doesn't work right anyway, so I want to put a 4-ton in. Well, no, that's not necessarily the case. We talked about that. So anyway, what we had is we started off with a citation hearing, which is not a disciplinary hearing. It's strictly just giving them a citation. I'm going to get a little bit more detail from Donna at the city, but if they do find somebody guilty on the citations, all it's involved with is fines, not necessarily. And I think the reason for that may have to be is that because he's not a license holder. Well, you can't
take away his license.
You can't take away,
Yeah,
or you can't
yeah,
put any
get out your
discipline.
checkbook.
Exactly. So I think that's probably
And
it.
don't do that anymore.
Exactly. So, the gentleman was Mark Flaxman, and I made a notice. He had a Lighthouse Construction Management was, quote unquote, the company. He was not licensed to, but he'd been in the contracting business for 30 some years, and he was working for a company called Country Construction as a representative. But when he went to the homes in this area, the contract on it had Country Club, but it also had his cell phone number and Lighthouse Construction. So some people actually had wrote a check to Country Construction, but some people were writing checks to him as well. And that's actually how he got caught. Is one of the individuals in this community wrote a check to Country Construction, and he gave it back to the homeowner and said, no, it's through Lighthouse Construction because I don't have a license. He thought that Country Construction was holding the license for him on this project. Well, I guess he just didn't dig deep enough and found out that that was not the case after all these problems. They were not backing him on the license, and he was basically out there on his own representing himself illegally as a licensed contractor. So the HOA association called the city, they turned him in, and then he went before the board. But he had been before the board last month for the same thing, pretty much.
Well, then he was conducting business with both of those names on his contracts. And does someone at that Country Construction even know he was doing?
Yes, they did
know.
And
Okay.
he says that people were actually, I guess after the jobs were sold or completed, that at some point in time Country Construction was out there. But it was one of those things that what I guess happened, and you can listen to it on the video, is they wanted a percentage of what he was getting out of it, so they were just kind of representing themselves.
Like a kickback?
But exactly.
Would you call that a
they
kickback?
really didn't want to be involved in it. So it was like, here, we'll say, hey, we're part of it just to get you something, but you're going to give us, I don't know, whatever the percentage was, let's say 10%. You're going to give us a percentage after you get paid, and we're going to represent you out there. But when it came down to the nitty-gritty of it, and there was a problem, well, we don't want our license to be a part of that. So he kind of got stuck in the crosshairs on that. But we're going to go ahead and take our first quick break. And today we're talking about the October Contractors Exam Board of the City of Port St. Lucie, who the bad boys were and who the good boys were. We'll be right back.
Elite Electric.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
Ooh, amazing.
Elite Electric.
Woogie, 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 woogie.
Elite Electric specializes in all of your electrical needs, from security lighting to surge protection and everything in between. How do you think they got their name? Elite Electric. Elite Electric has been family-owned and operated on the Treasure Coast since 1988, and they're recommended by Comfort Time Live. Visit online at eliteelectricandair.com and learn more about their services. Elite Electric. Service today. Proud sponsor of Comfort Time Live Friday mornings at 11 on WPSL 1590.
No matter what you want, just pick up your phone, say, come on, Elite.
And we'll get the job done.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
Benjamin Franklin Plumbing has extended its hours of operation. Their Jackpot 777 promotion allows you to receive service 7 days a week from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. at no additional cost. Also, as a bonus, if you mention this radio station when scheduling your appointment, you'll receive a 7% discount.
Fantastic.
Call 866-867-5309 to schedule your appointment today. Promotional offer is subject to availability and cannot be combined with other discounts or coupons. Excludes holidays.
Known for helping you keep that spark, now they'll help you keep cool. Elite Electric and Air, the official air conditioning sponsor of Comfort Time Live, has provided the best in heating and cooling customer service since 1988. If your electric bill is costing you more than 12 cents per square foot under air, you may be overpaying the utility company. Elite Electric and Air can help put that cash back in your pocket. Call Elite Electric and Air with 24-hour service. Dial 340-3797. That's 340-3797.
All right, welcome back to Comfort Time Live. I'm Tom Platani at 340-1590, the number to call here at the studio. If you have a question, comment, or concern, we talk about anything. Anything. Doesn't even have to be about the topic today, which is the results of the Contractors Exam Board held on October 11th. And we were talking about Mark Flaxman. And he had a total of $3,500 in fines. However, what they did is they only charged him for one offense for each of the homes. There was 3 different homes, 5 different fees, but they only charged him for 3 of them because 2 other ones were just for the same home. Now, what they did, and there was a big word that they used, but I didn't, where did I write it down? Yes, abeyance, I think that's the word. That they held the other fees in abeyance until, because he said that he had already purchased books to get his contractor's license in Martin County, because he can get a registered license. He doesn't have to get a state license. So in Martin County, he's going to get his contractor's license just for Martin County only. Doesn't do him much good up here. But the point of it is okay, you've bought the books. We're going to give you 6 months to...
So you own some books.
In good faith. We're going to give you 6 months in good faith to get your license. So within 6 months, you're back in front of us. You have not received your license. We're going to hit you with the rest of these fines, which, was an additional, $2,000-some $100. So it's one of those things is like, okay, is you getting your license worth you not having to pay another $2,200? So that's how they left it. So,
But isn't that sort of like putting the cart before the horse? He already did represent himself as being licensed.
yeah, and it's, it's one of the points that because, and I could say it's good and bad, because some of the people that sit on the board are license holders.
I mean, if I hold books to become a brain surgeon, I'm still not.
That is true. That is true. So I guess this is one of the points where they do show a little bit of leniency. And maybe it's because they see so many cases in front of them and so many of them are so belligerent that this guy had a legitimate reason, thought he was being covered, whether it was just a big scam and he was just absolutely lying his pants off. It's one of those things that, they had to trust that he was being legitimate, saying, hey.
Yeah, he's headed back to Indiana. I'm kidding. I am kidding. I'm kidding.
So we'll see. I mean, so we'll wait in 6 months and we'll find out if Mr. Flaxman from Lighthouse Construction Management. Now, if he does come to your home and he does offer any type of contracting services, he is not licensed. Do not. Now, he may come to your home representing another company. Now, he has to be physically employed by that company, receiving a paycheck from that company in order for it to be legitimate for him to do work on a home under that person's license.
Getting your house worked on seems to be more dangerous than buying a used car.
It can be. And there's so many loopholes, and I mean, that's why we got the show. I mean, there's so many loopholes and things that can happen and things that,
The opportunity to make money must really be there then, in order to draw people to do things without obeying the rules. The lure of making money has got to be much greater.
The lure of making easy money. And because if I want to paint a wall, most people really don't know what truly goes into painting a proper wall. So most of us, we see some guy with a paintbrush and a ruler, or a roller, and a ruler, and a thing of masking tape, and he comes over and says, "Hey, I'll paint that wall for you for $100." Wow, that's a good price.
Well, he better be wearing white pants that has a bunch of colored paint all over him too.
Yeah, he actually went
got
outside,
those white.
he went back in the trash can and he.
Why is it that painters wear white pants? I mean,
That's a good question.
It's just amazing to me. They always wear white pants.
And
with a little bit of paint from everybody's house on them.
There you go. That's a good question to look up.
I don't,
I'm going to Google that. Why do painters wear
white
Hey,
pants?
if there's a painter out there listening, give us a call, 340-1590. I'd like to hear. Make it a trivia question. Why do painters wear white paint? or white pants.
Now, see, only painters can play that trivia, though.
There you go.
Because they know the answer.
But this is why it's so easy in the construction industry, is because most folks don't understand what goes into a lot of these things. So if I hire somebody for $100 to paint the wall, he finishes painting the wall. Hey, that looks good. For $100, I got it done right. Well, they don't know, first off, that the guy's got to be licensed. They don't know that, well, there should have been 5 other things done to that wall to make it last properly, so that there weren't any issues, so that it wouldn't peel, it wouldn't, blah, 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 blah. But it's an easy trade.
He's a painter. He's watering down that paint anyway.
Same thing with air conditioning. People don't know a lot about it. They don't know a lot about roofing.
Nothing. Most homeowners know nothing
as
about
long
air
as I
conditioning.
walk outside and I see the shingles back on my roof, how do I know that he did it right underneath?
Yeah.
I don't. So it's easy money.
Yeah, you want that inspected.
Oh, absolutely. The
You-
roof, the air
yeah.
conditioner, the electric.
Sure.
Three of the biggest. The plumbing. 3 of the biggest things that can cause massive damage in your house.
So if nobody ever comes out to inspect the job, you know you didn't have a permit, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct, because every single solitary job that is supposed to have a permit has to have an inspection of some sort. That's the whole purpose of it. That's why you hear us talk about a lot of these permits expiring, and they have 180 days from the time the permit's pulled to pull an inspection. If an inspection hasn't been called within 180 days, the permit expires. So yes, it has to be inspected. That's the whole part of the permit,
Okay.
is so that we can make sure that a third party, someone who's not involved on either side, is looking at it, making sure that it was done appropriately
Okay.
Towards the codes. So there was a couple of them over here that we had that were tabled. We had Jeffrey Baker, who came to the table. Now, this was one that was, it's kind of, there was too much politics involved in it. He commenced or performed work without a permit and willfully and deliberately disregarded and violated an ordinance related to uncertified or unregistered contractor. He went in and did some work, and he was going to get a $260 fine. His biggest concern was, let me make sure I'm talking about the right one. Yeah. His biggest concern was that it did not go on his license, the discipline. Okay? So,
Maybe it's not his license.
so the issue was, if they were to fine him, now they could find him guilty, but they couldn't assess the fine, because if they assessed the fine, it would have gone into his license. So, I'm smacking you on the wrist, but I'm not going to charge you, because and they actually gave him that leniency. They they said, bad boy, but we're not going to fine you because we want to be nice and
But the rules are the rules.
and
But here you have people breaking the rules and standing before the people who make them,
Yeah.
and then they break them.
Right.
Ooh.
I don't know. So that one was one that, you know what? He walked up to the podium and he said, "I did it. I did it. I'll pay the fine. I have no problem with it. But could you not put this on my license?" Oh, wait a minute. That's like, I just grounded my daughter for something, and it's like, okay, I'm going to ground you, but I'm not going to take your phone away. I'm still going to let you go out. Okay, so what are you going to learn wrong about what you did? Okay, you got to learn. Well, if this guy knows, I did it. I got away
But
with it.
see, the only thing is, next time he's going to do the same thing, and he's going to ask for the same thing.
Yeah,
But now everybody who gets in trouble should be asking for the same thing.
Hey, contractors, if you want to know how to get away, you listen to Channel 29. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah.
So, now, once again, we're not sitting on the board. We don't know all the laws and things that are involved in this to make these decisions. I'm sure they had. I hope they had a legitimate reason. Watch it yourself and make your own determination. But I was plumbing. There was some work outside of his scope of what he was allowed to do that he did, that he wasn't supposed to do, basically what it came down to. There were some other ones that we talked about with the all-year cooling. They had 23 that they go through. They paid the $205 fine, but they did find that they did come back and fix everything. But that's what I was telling you about, is these folks come all the way up here from down south. All your cooling's all the way down south, and it's to a point where unless they had their own office up here, and the minute that job was sold, that somebody was emailing something back to the office and the office was immediately pulling a permit, it's near impossible. So what's supposed to happen is by the law, they're supposed to wait 3, 4, 5 days to get all this permit work in place.
No, it's hot in my house. I can't wait.
People aren't going to wait for that. If your air conditioner is broke or it's on its way out the door, you're not going to want to say, well, listen, I'm not waiting till Monday, and chances that Saturday comes around and my air conditioner breaks down. So here's the two options. You either install my air conditioning tomorrow, or I find somebody else who will. And so as a business person, you got to take a chance sometimes.
Right. And that customer picked you in the beginning.
Right.
They obviously wanted you to come out and look at it. And but if you say you're going to wait 3 to 5 days, excuse me, no, I'm not.
Yeah. So now what some of the counties will do, I know St. Lucie is one of them, that if you are installing it the next day, as long as first thing in the morning that you submit the application. The problem is St. Lucie doesn't have it online like Martin County does. So you have to go into their office. So that would mean that somebody at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night would have to start putting all this paperwork together and have somebody waiting at the front door at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Or you have to get somebody there by the end of the day. Otherwise, this wouldn't happen. So it's a game of politics. It should be done, but that's why they have some leniency. There's sometimes it just, like what they did with these folks. They had 23 permits, but they only charged them a $205 fine and said, guys, you know what? Just try to do your best to make this happen properly. And if don't let your permits expire. So there was 9 of them that had expired. Now, whether they expired because they knew they were going to fail and they were trying to get somebody back up here to fix the issues, or we don't know what the case was. But they actually had a lot that were tabled. They had David Noon from Tradewind Solar. That was I was tabled because it was in compliance. That's why. So he was in compliance for 2 of those. So he did not. He brought it into compliance before they had the meeting, so it wasn't any issues there. A bunch of them were in compliance. So I guess what people are actually doing is we're finding a lot of these guys that once they find out that they did something wrong, that they're making sure they do everything in their power to bring it within compliance.
Now, how are they getting turned in? How is the city finding out that they're in violation in the first place?
Multiple ways. One way can be just the inspectors driving around. So the inspectors are driving around inspecting other areas because what happens is every morning the inspectors get a list of where they're supposed to go, and then they go out and they start doing these inspections while they're driving around.
But they're going to places who have pulled permits and they know they're getting work done.
Yeah, but in the meantime, they're seeing other trucks and they're seeing other work. Like I'm driving by a house and I see half of the roof ripped off. Okay, well, somebody's doing some roof work. I'm going to stop by. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to talk to the homeowner. Oh, well, and then I'm going to find out. Or like the one with the Mark Flaxman, you had a homeowners association who turned them in because anybody who does work in an HOA has to be licensed. Now, you could try to get away with it, but if somebody turns you in like that.
But if he was doing the work next door at a private residence, this work could be done without anybody knowing there was any violation.
Right. Exactly, and that's where you'll get other.
So they're really only picking up on a portion of the violation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, and that's why we started the show is to educate people to say, hey,
you got to check.
You got to check yourself. But if somebody's doing this in your house and you don't know about it, so what we're trying to do is little by little find one thing here to take care of this, one thing. So if we collectively take care of it, we can minimize it. You got the sheriff's department going after unlicensed contractors by doing sting operations. You have the inspectors going around and catching people. And I would say maybe 70%, or maybe 60% of the people they're catching are licensed people trying to do other things that they're not supposed to, or not pulling permits when they should. Maybe the other 20 to 30% are just bums out there just trying to get away with what they can get away with. They know they don't have a license. They know they're not doing it right, but they're just trying to put cash in their pocket. and this is the statistics that we don't want our listeners to be a part of. We talked about service experts, level 3 level 3 reprimand in their license. I mean, there's only one more above that, and that's level 4, and that's basically, they might as well forget it.
And what did they do? What did they?
Condition of permits. That every permit shall become invalid if work unauthorized or suspended or abandoned for a period of 6 months.
Okay.
So what they did is they pulled a permit and they never had it inspected. But they've had issues in the past, and also they didn't show up. So when you open up, and that's one thing that they do is they'll find, when you watch the show, first they find the individual guilty or not guilty of the crime. Then they open up the file and they look at the history. And that's where they determine the severity of the penalty. Should we go with the $205 penalty, or should we go a lot farther than this? And with this one, when they opened up the file, it looked like one of those, those little pop-up books you give to your kids. So they're like, well, wait a minute. This guy needs to be smacked on the wrist really, really hard. So they gave him a level 3 reprimand in his license file, and also 365 days suspension in St. Lucie. So for 365 days, legally,
he can't pull a permit.
He can't pull a permit for whatever his business. Now, Service Experts has multiple divisions. Mostly they're air conditioning, but I don't know what division this gentleman, Dennis Kraviston, has. He may not be the air conditioning side of the business. He may be something else. But I would believe, based on this, that it was probably an air conditioning. But I'm not sure what vicinity. But just do your homework once again. Okay? Well, let's go ahead and take another quick break. Before we do that, I got a trivia question. Now, this may be leaving some of our younger folks out, but I know there are also a lot of younger folks out there that like to do some trivia from the days gone by. So 340-1590, the winner of the trivia question gets a one-system heating and air conditioning tune-up by our buddies over at Elite Electric and Air. 340-1590. Name the poodle Frank Sinatra gave to Marilyn Monroe. Name the poodle Frank Sinatra gave to Marilyn Monroe. And I can't give you any of the answers. No. I started stopping. I'm going to stop doing that because some of them were too easy. So name the poodle Frank Sinatra gave to Marilyn Monroe. If you know the answer, 340-1590, you get to win a one-time free heating and air conditioning tune-up from Elite Electric and Air. You're listening to Cover Time Live. We'll be right back.
Elite Electric.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
Ooh, amazing.
Elite Electric.
Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie.
Elite Electric specializes in all of your electrical needs, from security lighting to surge protection and everything in between. How do you think they got their name? Elite Electric. Elite Electric has been family owned and operated on the Treasure Coast since 1988, and they're recommended by Comfort Time Live. Visit online at eliteelectricandair.com and learn more about their services. Elite Electric. Service today. Proud sponsor of Comfort Time Live Friday mornings at 11 on WPSL 1590.
No matter what you want, just pick up your phone, say, come on, Elite.
And we'll get the job done.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
Benjamin Franklin Plumbing has extended its hours of operation. Their Jackpot 777 promotion allows you to receive service 7 days a week from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. at no additional cost. Also, as a bonus, if you mention this radio station when scheduling your appointment, you'll receive a 7% discount.
Fantastic.
Call 866-867-5309 to schedule your appointment today.
867-5309.
Promotional offer is subject to availability and cannot be combined with other discounts or coupons. Excludes holidays.
Known for helping you keep that spark, now they'll help you keep cool. Elite Electric and Air, the official air conditioning sponsor of Comfort Time Live, has provided the best in heating and cooling customer service since 1988. If your electric bill is costing you more than 12 cents per square foot under air, you may be overpaying the utility company. Elite Electric and Air can help put that cash back in your pocket. Call Elite Electric and Air with 24-hour service. Dial 340-3797. That's 340-3797.
All right, welcome back to Comfort Time Live. I'm Tom Platania, and remember, ComfortTimeLive.com is a place that you can go to find out about all this information that we're speaking of. You can go on there, you can find out about contractors, you can find out about energy savings. There's a big house on the front. You can click on different sections of that house, and it'll bring you to areas of that home to talk about certain things. You'll also be able to find, after this weekend, you'll be able to find on the front page a copy of the load calculation form if you want to get if you want to find out if the air conditioner that you have in your house is the right size. There's a lot of issues. If you know it's the right size, and you're still having problems, then you know if you're having an issue controlling temperature and high electric bills, you know that there's a different direction that you need to go in than upgrading to a larger system, which is a huge no-no. So for $50, most places are charging $75 to $100 out there. For $50, you can get a very neutral opinion, a good opinion, and the sheet that I use is the sheet that is given and approved by the state, by the city, for what we call a Writes-Off Manual J8 load calculation. Now I do that as a whole house, or as your whole house. I do have the ability also to do what's called a room by room. Now the nice thing about that is even when I was doing new homes, is I used to go into a room and I would determine that the room is 200 square foot. I would do 1 square foot per CFM of air. Not to get too technical, but basically I would put a duct big enough in that room where at least 200 CFMs of air, cubic feet per minute of air, could go into that room. Not taking into consideration if that room had no windows or windows all the way around makes a huge difference on how much air should go into that room. So that's why you notice a lot of times you have one room that's hotter or colder than others. And that's because somebody guesstimated at the amount of air that goes in that room. By doing a room by room load calculation, I would get the actual dimensions of the room, doors, closets, windows, and then we would be able to determine. So if you decided to make any changes to your duct system, you would have those exact numbers to give to the air conditioning company, and so this way you can ensure that you're going to have even temperature throughout the house, which is very, very, very important. Okay, so the last person that we're going to have from the Contractors Exam Board is he's no stranger to the Contractor Exam Board, Mr. Clemmy Hill, who owns Grace Stucco and Plastering. Now, if you remember a couple Contractors Exam Boards ago, Clemmy Hill was in front of us, and he was confronted by the owner, the young lady who he had done work for. Now, remember what had happened is that Mr. Hill had a contract in excess of $13,000 with the homeowner. However, in the city of Port St. Lucie, or pretty much anywhere, if a contract or an agreement is anything over $7,500, you have to have a notice of commencement from the courthouse. Okay? You go to the courthouse, you file it, and it has to be approved. And, well, what he did is he falsified documents to say that the contract was less than $7,500, so he wouldn't have to go file the notice of commencement with the court, which I have no clue or understanding of why he wouldn't want to do that, except for the amount of time that it takes. It's only a few dollars to do it. It's not a big deal. It's actually less expensive than the permit itself. Maybe it was the time consumption. I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to. But anyway, so that's what it's. Well, Mr. Hill is back in front of us. Now, when that happened, he had his license suspended. Now, what he was was a stucco and plastering license holder, and they had suspended his license for a period, I want to say it was like 60 days. And you know, the ironic thing is the day of the contractor's exam board on October 11th was the day that his suspension was finalized. That was his last day, so he could have gotten his license back. However, he went back and was doing the same thing again. He was accused of willfully and deliberately engaging in a type or class of contracting for which the contractor's license was not registered, and also knowingly violating applicable building codes or laws and committing fraud or deceit in the practice of contracting. His excuse was that he was trying to pay back for other things, so he went back out and did the illegal activities because he was losing his house and his license and his wife and everything. So he had no choice, but this is all I know. This is all I know how to do. It's the only way I can make money. I had no choice. I had to do what I had to do. So that's a
Man's got a right to make a living, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, the next, I guess they didn't suspend his license again, but they stuck with the fines. And for some reason, I didn't write the fines down.
Which he's going to need to go out and do some jobs to pay for.
To pay for the fines now, right. But they said, we're not going to suspend your license because that would be counterproductive. If we suspend your license again, then you still can't do any work, and you're still going to go out and do work because you have no choice. So let's let the license go. We're going to keep it in place, but you have to promise. You have to promise that you're not going to do any work outside your scope of your license, because even though you've been in here 2 or 3 times with us, we trust that you're not going to do it this time.
Yeah, I think maybe track record might tell them different, though, huh?
So the next time that he is in front of them, he's probably going to lose his license. Unless he's got a better sob story that time, and he can talk him out of it again. But unfortunately, there was no homeowners or anything in front of him this time. But I don't know.
But nothing stops him, though, from doing jobs in Indian River or Martin County, right?
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Unless his license, which I think it is, I think his license, well, it does. Yeah, it doesn't stop him.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't.
Nothing's stopping him anyway, right?
Including,
the rules don't apply.
Including our board meeting.
Yeah.
Nothing stops anybody. However,
Yeah.
I don't know if he has a registered license, which would mean it was only registered in certain towns or cities.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if he is licensed in Martin County. So if you are listening, or you do know someone who is who has Clemmy Hill from Grace Stucco and Plastering Incorporated involved in anything, just make sure that you find out what the scope of his license is. Now, basically, it's stucco plastering. There is a little bit of concrete work that is involved in that. I believe there's a little bit of screening work that's involved in that. Because of the screening over top. But make sure whatever you have him do, that you double check with the city that he's in, that what he is doing for you,
He's
licensed to do. What's the scope of his license? Because this can fall back on you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think that he necessarily does. I haven't heard of him doing bad work yet. Okay, I haven't heard of that. However, if it's not licensed properly, it's not permitted properly, and you go to sell the house 3 or 4 years down the road, it all falls
The man's
back
just getting
on
in
you.
his way.
That's exactly. It all falls back on you as the homeowner. And no matter whether you think he's a great guy or not, when he leaves the job, he's gone. You got no chance of getting anything back. So get it done right the first time. Make sure he's licensed. Make sure what he's doing. And if you need him to do something else that he's not licensed for, get somebody who is. This way you know it's going to be done right. But that was actually the 2 best ones. Was the very first one. So you really need to tune in to Port St. Lucie. And we got 5 minutes left. We didn't get an answer to our question. And our trivia question today was, name the poodle.
You going to give hints
I'll
in the
give-
last 5 minutes
I'll
of the show?
give some
Okay.
hints. Name the poodle Frank Sinatra gave to Marilyn Monroe. 340-1590 is the number to call. I'll give you 3 clues. Was it Blue Eyes, Frankie, or Mafia? So name the poodle Frank Sinatra gave to Marilyn Monroe. Was it Blue Eyes, Frankie, or Mafia? 340-1590. You'll get your free one-time heating and air conditioning tune-up, or since Elite Electric is doing both of them, if you decide you want that free electrical inspection, you can get either one from them. Which, if you've already had an air conditioning inspection recently, you may want to have that electrical inspection done, because I tell you that could really suck some juice out of your home. So now next week we're going to be having an open forum again. We're going to be talking a little bit about, since we're getting some of our temperatures are getting a little cooler, not a lot cooler, but we're dropping a little bit. Got down into the 60s and high 60s, low 70s the other night. So it's don't get let's
Temperatures are cooler, but the humidity is up because of all
Yes,
this rain.
nasty. Yeah. So let's be proactive instead of reactive. So we're going to talk to you next week about some heating tips on how we need to make sure we get that heater taken care of, so that when you go to turn it on for the first time.
Should we be checking that now so that we've got time before
that's why we're going to
temperatures drop?
talk about it next week instead of waiting too late. If we do get that one temperature that drops real low all of a sudden and we turn our heater on, you're going to bombard the air conditioning heating companies with phone calls, because you're going to be stressing. So let's knock some of those out of the water first before we do that. And it looks like we have an answer to our trivia question. We have Sharon. Hello, Sharon.
Hi there.
How are you today, young lady?
Good, thank you. And I'm guessing it's Blue Eyes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sharon. That was a good guess, though.
Okay.
That was a good guess, and
I was guessing. Okay.
No, I appreciate you listening.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, well, that gives us a 50-50 chance. We have Frankie or Mafia, 340-1590. And remember, don't forget to go to ComfortTimeLive.com. You can actually email me as well, ComfortTimeLive@gmail.com. You can go ahead and email me if you have questions about your house. If you have questions about electrical or heating or plumbing or anything like that, you want to email those questions to me, I can send the ones I can't answer over to our sponsors, and we can make sure Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, Elite Electric and Air, we'll make sure we get them to answer those, and I'll send it back over to you. I get a good average of emails every week. People asking some very simple questions. Some of them are very detailed. But the nice thing is that we have participation, and that's good. And that's what it's all about, is trying to get these questions answered. And I don't charge to answer the questions, so that's a good thing. So you don't have to call some of these people out and get charged $80, $90, $100 to be charged on that. So we'll get that done. And hopefully it's going to be a beautiful weekend out. I'm going to try to do some boating this weekend, if we can, and get that taken care of. So ComfortTimeLive.com. And now, the one thing that the Contractors and Board is every month now that they're doing it, so we're going to have, so what are we in? We're in October. So they're going to have one in November. So we're going to do one, depending on what day, let's see, what day that show falls on. We might be able to do the show in November for the November one. Depends on when that falls in. Otherwise, we'll do it on 1st of December. But, all right, ladies and gentlemen, well, it doesn't look like we found a answer to our trivia. The name was Mafia. So the name of the poodle Frank Sinatra gave to Marilyn. Oh, we got a bunch of callers here now. I just gave the answer away. Hey, Orlando. How you doing?
Hello?
Hello, Orlando.
Yes.
How you doing?
I was going to say Mafia, but you already said it.
All right, well, we're going to give you a call. We got to go, Orlando. Thanks for listening to the show. We'll have Elite Electric and Air give you a call right away.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next Friday right here on WPSL 1590.